Hi there, and welcome to this masterclass, Imposter Syndrome in Leaders. You'd be amazed how many leaders suffer from this, so you're not on your own. Many of my executive clients feel like an imposter, sometimes or most of the time when we initially start working together. And I suppose you're probably here because you too, maybe sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, also feel like a bit of an imposter. Now, you might think that your success is down to luck or timing or because of the help from others, rather than because of your own ability. You might believe that your achievements are not really significant or impressive enough. You might think that you're going to get found out anytime. Maybe every time the phone rings, you think, oh my God, what's gone wrong now? And maybe you're a perfectionist and you're afraid of making a mistake. That is a very, very stressful mindset. And we're going to cover all of this and a little bit more in this masterclass. My name's Caddy, and you'll probably know me as Kath if you're one of my supply chain connections. I'm a life-changing coach, and I show people how to ditch their stress and overwhelm and start really enjoying their life to the fullest permanently. So to start with, here are a couple of thoughts for you. You could say that you hold a belief that you are an imposter. Now, first off, a belief is really just a thought that you keep thinking. It's just a story that you keep telling yourself. And your beliefs will dictate your feelings and control your actions or your non-actions. If you think you can do something, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're also right. And the actions that you would take or not take are very, very different depending on what you believe is or isn't possible for you. When you change your story, you'll change your beliefs, and then you'll change the way that you feel. And the actions that you will take will then be very different. Every action has a reaction, and that reaction you could call your results, the results that you're achieving or not achieving. Now, the issue is that no matter what I say, no matter what anybody else says, people might tell you all the time how good you are at what you do. Unless you believe it, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't make any difference what anybody else says. Now, what could happen, in fact, is that someone telling you how brilliant you are might make you feel even more like an imposter. Secondly, 95% of what we do, how we act, how we interact with others, 95% of all the decisions that we're making are unconscious, they're automatic, they're a habit. And we don't just have habitual ways of physically doing things, we have also habitual ways of thinking and of feeling and of believing. So you could say that you're conditioned or programmed to believe certain things about yourself, like you're not good enough, like you're an imposter. And to change a habit, whether that's a physical habit or that habitual way of thinking or feeling, we have to repeat another idea over and over again until it becomes a new habitual way of thinking, a new habitual way of feeling, believing, and acting. We have to change the way that we approach certain things and situations and change our perception about certain things and situations if we want to change things. I want you to really understand that you are not your thoughts. And I would really like you to become the observer of your thoughts throughout this masterclass and beyond the masterclass, so that you can then start to objectively analyze those thoughts. And by the way, people are not easily fooled. You must have done something right to get where you're at. And of course, I can say that, but you have to believe it. Now, a typical symptom of imposter syndrome is that we can't accept compliments, we brush them off. So here's your first exercise. Start to accept compliments with just a thank you, nothing more. Just say thank you, no explaining and no diminishing it. This topic in this masterclass is really close to my heart because I too suffered from it for many, many years in different areas of my life. When I worked at Heinz and I got my first management role where I had to put together a transport budget for tens of thousands of tons of products, I was worrying about whether it should be $10.26 or $10.38 per ton. Now, on a multi-million-dollar budget, that would have been totally irrelevant, but I was having sleepless nights about it. I was thinking, what was I thinking when I took on this role? I have no clue what I'm doing, and I'm going to get found out soon. So I really do feel your pain. Now, by the way, I went on from that to have a very successful and ultimately really a very happy career in supply chain. My intention for this masterclass is to help you get rid of your imposter syndrome, or at least get you well on the way to ditching it. So I will be challenging you to explore and to change your perception of yourself. What is an imposter? It's really someone who pretends to be someone that they're not. And what is a syndrome? So I looked this up in ChatGPT. So they say a characteristic combination of opinions, emotions, or behavior that form an identifiable pattern. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, let's go and have some fun with this. My first question, what if you are actually an imposter? The only reason you feel uncomfortable about that is because you're arguing with that thought of being an imposter. Being an imposter is paying your bills, right? It's allowing you and it's enabling you at the moment to live up to your responsibilities, isn't it? So what's really so bad about it? Plus, you're not the only one who suffers from this. Lots of people have imposter syndrome. So you're not on your own. And if we are all imposters, then it doesn't really have to be a bad thing. Now, like I said, it feels uncomfortable to tell yourself that you have imposter syndrome, that you're an imposter, because you are arguing with that belief that you are an imposter. You're arguing within yourself, having one voice say to you, you were just lucky. It's only because you knew such and such a body. You'll get found out. You're not good enough. You don't really know what you're doing. Who do you think you are? That's one voice. And then there's another voice that's challenging those statements. So why are you arguing with those ideas? Well, I would say that it's because at some level, you know that those statements aren't actually true. Deep down, you know that it isn't just luck. You know that you're capable. You know that you know what you're doing. And even if you don't know, you know that you'll find out how to do it or what to do. And there's your first bit of clarity. You actually know that those things you're telling yourself that are making you feel like an imposter are not actually true. Unless, imagine, just for a little moment, that you are brilliant at your job and you know it and you believe it. And imagine that you didn't have imposter syndrome. And then ask yourself these questions. In my current role, if I was totally confident and if I knew I was really good at my job, would I want to do this? Am I in the job that I really want? Am I in the industry that I want to be in? Is what I am doing in alignment with my bigger purpose? Important questions, right? Because if it isn't, then no matter how good or bad you are at what you're doing right now, you will always feel like a bit of an imposter because you're not living the life that you're meant to be living. Really explore that properly. Be honest with yourself. And if you want to make some changes, come talk to me because that's exactly one of the things that I help my clients with. Now, if you are loving the job you do, but you do feel like an imposter and it's spoiling your enjoyment, then let's explore that. So that by the end of this session, you understand where feeling like an imposter comes from, how it manifests itself, and how to get beyond it. We all have these little voices in our heads talking to us. Your imposter syndrome's voice is telling you, you're not good enough. You're only here because of luck. You're going to get found out soon. The thing is that you cannot trust those voices. You cannot really trust your mind. You have to take control of it. So here's an example of those conflicting voices. You're on a diet. You're cutting out chocolate and pizza from Monday to Friday. Now, it's Thursday late afternoon. You're a bit bored. You felt hungry most of the day. And you've got a friend coming round tonight. Now, one little voice says, go on, you've been good all week. You can have a pizza and some chocolates. And another little voice says, no, You said you only have pizza and chocolate at the weekend. And the first voice says, well, it's all right. Once doesn't matter. You're doing really, really well. You've stuck to it for ages. So you give in and you have the pizza and the chocolates. And even before you finish it, the same voice goes, why did you do that, you silly person? You said you'd wait till the weekend, you big failure, etc., etc. So can you see how that voice is just accommodating you feeling bad about yourself? It's like a bully, really, isn't it? Now, to get rid of a bully, you've got to face it head on. So the first thing to do is to give your imposter voice a name. Pick one now. And then when it talks to you, talk back to it. Maybe something like this. Hi, Voldemort. There you are again. What are you trying to tell me this time? And Voldemort might say, you don't know what you're doing, really. What if someone finds out about you? And then you might say, well, thanks, Voldemort, for pointing that out and for reminding me that I am not that person anymore. I'm learning. I'm getting better every day. I got to this stage because I did something right and I do know what I'm doing. And even if I don't, I will find out. Like with anything new, I will work it out. So bye-bye, Voldemort. And then Voldemort might try another tactic. Oh, you're rubbish. You were never good enough at anything. You never stuck with anything, and so on and so forth. And again, talk back to it. Ask, what is the message that you're trying to give me here? Are you trying to say I'm a terrible person? Well, you know you're not, and you know that that's not true. And you have to do this over and over and over again. Become aware of that negative voice. Become the observer of those thoughts. Don't fight it. Allow it to exist, but just don't engage with it. And over time, this will be way, way quicker than you think. Voldemort will toddle off and not come back. Once you start to become aware of that Voldemort voice, or whatever you've called your little imposter syndrome voice, you can distance yourself from it. You can become the observer of it rather than engage with it. And then I'd like you to do this exercise. In the middle of a page, write down imposter syndrome, circle it, and then draw lines from the circle outward, like a spider diagram, and write down all the negative thoughts and beliefs that you have about yourself, the ones that are causing you to feel like an imposter. Pick one at a time and write it at the top of a page. And then you're going to explore each one of those. The first question to ask is this really true? And most of the time, you will find, once you explore it and you distance yourself from it and you look at it objectively, you'll find that it isn't true. Then I want you to write down the opposite, which would be the empowering thought. And then create an affirmation. Keep it really simple. And every time that negative thought comes up, override it with the positive affirmation. Remember, a belief is a thought you keep thinking. Keep thinking a positive, empowering thought for long enough, and you'll start to believe it. And guess what? The imposter syndrome will weaken and eventually disappear. One of the things that we develop as people with imposter syndrome is perfectionism and working too hard to compensate for what we perceive to be our shortcomings. And this adds a lot of unnecessary stress to our lives. We're worried that we might make a mistake. Now, ask yourself, what is the worst thing that might happen if I did make a mistake? And you'll find again that when you actually objectively look at that, nothing bad's going to happen. Now, unfortunately, we've been conditioned, programmed, if you like, that making a mistake is a bad thing. It's not. When a little baby learns to walk, it will fall down several times. We don't then shout, get up, you stupid child. Why did you fall over? You're rubbish at walking. Not at all. We don't say that at all. We give encouragement. We know that falling down is part of learning how to walk. And by falling down and getting back up again, the child learns more about balancing. It's just part of the journey to being able to walk. And then we get bigger and we go to school and then we learn things, for instance, spelling. And then we have to write down difficult words. And we might get 8 out of 10 correct. The ones that we didn't get right are marked in red on the page and it jumps out at us, doesn't it? Then what happens? People around us tend to focus on the two that we got wrong over and over again. And it may not even have been in a negative way, but the focus is on that thing that was wrong. We're not so much celebrating or focusing on the 8 that we got right. Slowly but surely, then we learned to focus on what went wrong and to avoid it because it didn't feel good. But that's crazy. Edison failed 999 times in his quest to bring incandescent lights to the world. But what was really happening is that he found out 999 ways how not to do it, which then brought him closer to finding out how to do it. So what if you could reprogram yourself to view mistakes in a completely different way? What would you say to your child if it made a mistake? What would you say to a team member if they made a mistake? Fact is that someone who never makes a mistake never tries anything, never does anything. So you've got to become okay with making a mistake. You actually have a 100% success rate of coming through all the mistakes you made and all the shitty stuff that's happened in your life so far. And you handled it up to now. So why would it be any different in future? We really have to start getting comfortable again with making a mistake and then, of course, learning from it. Here's another exercise for you. Explore your thoughts about making a mistake. What is the worst that could happen if you made a mistake? And once again, when you explore it as an objective observer, you'll realize that all those negative thoughts and beliefs are not true. Do another spidergram exercise on this one. And when you put this into a team context, when you cultivate an atmosphere where it is okay to make a mistake and learn from it, what you'll find is that people become much more confident and much more creative. They'll start to come up with crazy ideas that might just make a huge difference to your team performance and to your company's longevity and profitability. And of course, it's a much more productive environment to be working in. Now, part of feeling the need to be a perfectionist is believing that we have to know everything. We cannot admit that we don't know something. We feel that we can't say, I don't know. Totally stressful. And the truth is, sorry, you're not that special. Why do you need to know everything? No one else does. Personally, I find that the best approach is to openly admit when we don't know something or when we're not sure. Because remember, impostering means that you are pretending to be someone you're not. And if you don't know something and you pretend you do, or you think you should know, you are indeed an imposter. Be honest and say, oh, good question. I don't know the answer to that. Let me find out. If you think that you should know, you're arguing with reality again. At this moment, you don't know. And it's a great opportunity to learn something. We're always learning, we're always growing, we're always developing. That's what makes life interesting. Instead of worrying about it, you can choose, you've got free choice, you can choose to be grateful for the question and the opportunity to learn. And in my experience, when I'm being honest about what I don't know, people always are more than happy to help. And many times you end up finding out more than you ever thought you would. Now, when we give the example of admitting we don't know, of asking questions to gain clarity, we empower others to do the same, to acknowledge their own gaps and to learn more. And then you can all work together and find solutions for things much quicker. So we talked earlier about the fear of getting found out, and it's a really interesting one, this one. And like I said before, I really want you to realize that people are not easily fooled. You must have done something right to get where you're at in your working life right now, or anywhere in life. And for us to be successful, we have to have had a successful journey. You cannot have a successful achievement if you weren't successful on the way there. This is an example I very often give. You can't eat a delicious meal unless you successfully put the ingredients together for it. You can't be fit and healthy unless you successfully did your workouts. You must successfully provide a service or goods to get money for it. And so you must successfully do a role to get a promotion. You got your progression in your career because you were successful in your previous job. What happened really is that you outgrew that job and you were ready for the next step up. But you must start to operate from the mindset of that person with the higher level role, if you like. You would have been comfortable in your previous role, and it's easy to fall back into that way of thinking because that's what you know. Now, of course, there will definitely be some things that you could improve on in the role that you're in now. There's always something to learn. What I'd like you to do is make a list of the daily tasks that you do, very high level daily tasks, and then decide whether those tasks are relevant to your role. For instance, when we first start our career, we are sometimes something like 90% doing and 10% thinking. And as we progress up the ladder, we need to do less doing and more strategic thinking. So we have to change that balance. As a leader, we need to get things done. We don't necessarily do them. In fact, we very rarely should be doing them. Now, from that list of your daily tasks, pick one or two things where you could improve, and then take action every day to make those improvements. This way you are empowering yourself, and that will build up your confidence and your belief in yourself. And again, it will weaken that imposter syndrome feeling. Start seeing yourself as successful in your role. At the moment, you have an habitual way of thinking about yourself. You might be focusing on those 2 spelling mistakes that you made rather than the 8 that you got right. And a great thing to really start to sort of implement this is to start a success journal. Every day, write down what went well, and then acknowledge it and accept it. Don't diminish it. Tell that bully Voldemort to take a hike. It went well. And that's really all there is to it. There's no ifs or buts or maybes. Things just went well. Acknowledge them, accept them, and write them down. One of the things that I get my clients to do as soon as we start working together is to start a gratitude journal. This gets you into a positive vibe, and it means that you will automatically start to notice more positive aspects in your life. If you don't do anything else, then please start your gratitude journal. And every morning and every evening, write down 5 things or more, if you want to, that you are grateful for. And then pick one and recognize how you appreciate yourself in it. For instance, I'm grateful for a lovely evening with my friends, and I appreciate myself for organizing and cooking a nice meal. And then write down one thing that you're good at and one thing that you like about yourself. Appreciation literally means increase in value. And by appreciating yourself, you'll start to value yourself more. You'll start to become more confident, which Voldemort, the bully, will not be able to handle. Light is always stronger than darkness. When you light a candle or you flick on a light, the darkness disappears and the light makes things visible. It's the same for this dark imposter syndrome voice. When you shine a light on it, when you address it, when you make it visible, you question it, it will disappear. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Become the objective observer of those negative thoughts that you're having. Challenge them, don't judge them, they're there. Challenge them, and then ask yourself, is it true? If it is true, take some action to improve. Most of the time, you'll find it's not true. Give yourself an affirmation for the opposite. This is such an interesting and big topic, this imposter syndrome. And there are really so many different aspects that play a part in us feeling like an imposter. And I really just covered a few very high-level ones in this masterclass. So I wanted to give you a little summary. You have an habitual way of talking to yourself, and you can choose what thoughts and which ideas you entertain, what you allow yourself to get involved with. You hold certain beliefs about yourselves, one belief being that you are an imposter, and a belief is just a story you keep telling yourself. Start choosing your thoughts and start telling yourself a different story over and over again. The role you're in now, you got because you were successful previously, and it's just your next step into personal growth and development. Externalize that voice of the bully, that Voldemort, or whatever you call your bully. Give it a name and talk to it. And then explore your negative thoughts on a very regular basis. Do some mental housekeeping every month at least. and write in your success journal every day to build that confidence and that belief in yourself. Start a gratitude journal and increase your feeling of self-worth and value, and you'll start to automatically see yourself very differently. Learn to accept compliments. Just say thank you. Nothing more than that. You are not your thoughts. Become the objective observer of them. Challenge the negative thoughts, and you'll realize most of them are not true. And like I said before, if they are true, take immediate action to learn and improve. Reframe failures or mistakes as a learning opportunity, and then learn from them. And you got to become comfortable with admitting that you don't know something, and you got to become comfortable with asking for help. And very, very importantly, you must take control of your mind. Take control of your thoughts and deliberately guide your thoughts to the direction that's actually going to serve your purpose. Guide your mind to thoughts that create beliefs that align with your purpose. And this is exactly what I show people to do, how to use their mind in a way that serves them, how to create habits that align with your desires. You really cannot achieve anything beyond what you believe is possible, and you can never outperform your self-image. Now, before we finish, let me leave you with some food for thought. You must put on your own oxygen mask first by continuing to entertain the lie of imposter syndrome for yourself. You are not operating at your best. And when you are at your best, everyone else in your life gets the best of you as well. Your loved ones, your family, your friends, your colleagues, team members, strangers, everyone. My dad would say, don't hide your light under a bushel. You're really not doing yourself or anyone else any favors by talking yourself down and diminishing your achievements. You're really not. And you don't have to be big-headed by acknowledging your successes. It's just a healthy knowing who you are, what you're good at, and what you can still learn. I always say that life is lots of small moments strung together. Don't spoil those moments by putting yourself down. Ultimately, you are unique. There has never been anyone like you, and there never will be anyone like you again. And you have a unique gift to share with this world. So don't let that imposter syndrome hold you back, because you'd be doing yourself, your loved ones, and the world a proper disservice. I can't believe we're nearly done. Now, if you like this quite short masterclass, then pass it on to anyone who you think might be interested or might benefit from it. And today we really just covered a very little tip of a much, much bigger iceberg. So if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed regularly, if you're working too many hours, if you're not feeling excited when you get up in the morning, if you're on autopilot all of the time and possibly dreading your next day, come talk to me. I've helped many, many people change their lives from merely existing and surviving to thriving every day. And of course, it helps them, but it also immediately affects everyone in their life for the better too. And I really do love working with people as a coach, because it's always a proper privilege to be part of your journey of self-discovery and taking control of your life, so that when you get to the end of it, you can look back on a life that you really enjoyed and you lived to its fullest. So that's it. Do message me to arrange a free one-to-one if you're ready to make some positive and permanent changes in your life, because why not? And if you don't do it now, then when? When will you do it? Thank you for being here with me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.